Jaguar sold roughly 0 new cars in America this year. Not because nobody wanted them, because Jaguar decided to stop selling them, on purpose. It discontinued every single model, emptied its own showrooms, and ran a launch ad with no car in it. The company that beat Ferrari at Le Mans walked away from its biggest market on a bet. And that bet is either the boldest reinvention in car history or the slowest a luxury brand has ever committed. The ad with no car. Let's start with the ad, because that's the moment most Americans realized something had gone badly wrong. On November 18, 2024, Jaguar deleted its entire social media history. Every post, every photo, decades of cars and races and launches wiped out in an afternoon. The next day, the new Jaguar arrived. The leaping cat, the hood ornament that had defined the brand for the better part of a century, was stripped from the main branding. In its place, a plain word mark, capital and lowercase letters mixed together, which the company said created visual harmony. New slogans came with it: delete ordinary, live vivid, break molds, and the one they built the entire campaign around: copy nothing. Then the ad itself. Models in bright futuristic clothes strutting through pink and yellow abstract landscapes. And no car, not one. No wheel, no badge, no headlight, nothing that told you this was for a car company at all. If you saw it cold, you'd have guessed it was selling perfume or sneakers or a fashion label. You would never have guessed Jaguar. The reaction was instant, and it was massive. Over 100 million people saw that video within 48 hours. Not because they loved it, but because they kept sharing it in disbelief. Elon Musk quote-tweeted it with 4 words: "Do you sell cars?" That became the most repeated line on the internet that week. It wasn't just Musk. Polls ran in the tens of thousands, and the verdict was overwhelming. People found the rebrand alienating and said it had nothing left to do with Jaguar. And the criticism all pointed at the same thing. A car company had made an ad with no car in it, at the exact moment it needed to convince people to wait more than a year for cars that didn't exist yet. You cannot outmarket an empty showroom. No matter how good the ad looks, you cannot sell a car that isn't there. 2 weeks later, Jaguar doubled down. At Miami Art Week in December 2024, it revealed a concept car called the Type 00, shown in 2 colors, Miami Pink and London Blue. Long, low, severe, with a hood that seemed to stretch on forever. Online, people compared it to a Barbie car, to a Cybertruck, to an air conditioning vent. Jaguar's executives defended it, said the brand needed to stop blending in. That being polarizing was the whole point. Maybe. But there was one problem no amount of confidence could fix. You couldn't buy it. You couldn't buy any of it. Because by then, Jaguar had already stopped building cars entirely. What Jaguar actually was. Now, to understand why any of this hit so hard, you have to understand what Jaguar actually was, not as a logo. As one of the great car companies of the 20th century, it starts in England in 1922 with motorcycle sidecars. A 21-year-old named William Lyons, who cared far more about engines than about anything else, saw a beautifully built sidecar near his parents' house, bought it on the spot, and talked the man who made it into starting a business. 3 employees and a boy above a shop. On a good week, they finished 1 sidecar, but Lyons had one idea that never changed, and the entire company was built on it. He wanted his vehicles to look like they cost 3 times what they actually did. By the late 1920s, they were building car bodies, the first one on an Austin 7, and it looked like something a wealthy man would step out of, even though it cost a fraction of what it looked like. The orders came in faster than they could build them. By 1935, Lyons picked a name for a new model, something that meant power and grace and speed: Jaguar. There's one piece of that story that rarely gets told. The company was originally called SS Cars. Before the Second World War, those 2 letters meant nothing in particular. After the war, they meant something no company on earth could carry. So in 1945, Lyons stood up at a shareholders meeting and changed the name for good. From then on, it was Jaguar. And then came the greatest run any luxury car maker has ever had. In 1948, Jaguar showed a car called the XK120 powered by an engine its engineers had literally sketched out during the war, on night duty, watching the sky for bombers. It could hit 133 miles an hour, making it the fastest production car in the world. Then came the racing. Jaguar won the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the most brutal endurance race on Earth, in 1951. Then again, 3 years straight, in 1955, 56, and 57, beating Ferrari, Maserati, and Aston Martin. And here's the part that mattered. The engine winning those races was a version of the same engine sitting under the hood of the cars Jaguar sold to regular people. When you bought a Jaguar in the 50s, you were buying something with Le Mans in its blood. Almost nobody on Earth could say that. And then, in 1961, came the car that settled it forever, the E-Type. Its shape was drawn by a man named Malcolm Sayer, who had spent the war designing aircraft, and who built car bodies the way he built wings, with wind tunnels and mathematics. He refused to be called a stylist. He said he was an engineer. The result could do 150 miles an hour, had disc brakes on all four wheels, and cost roughly half the price of a comparable Ferrari. Enzo Ferrari himself called it the most beautiful car ever made. Frank Sinatra saw one and reportedly demanded it on the spot. Steve McQueen owned one. That was Lion's idea in its purest form. Grace and speed and real engineering for people who weren't billionaires. That is the company we're talking about. That is what had nothing on its showroom floor. The fall, the rescue, and the comeback. Before we get to what went wrong, quick favor. If you've ever owned a Jaguar of any kind, at any age, drop the number 1 in the comments. Just the number 1. I want to see how many of us there are. Jaguar's independence didn't last. Through the 60s and 70s, it got swallowed into a giant British conglomerate, and the quality collapsed. Electrical faults, breakdowns, rust. The cars still looked like Jaguars, but too many of them fell apart, and the reputation for unreliability haunted the brand for 30 years. Ford bought Jaguar in 1989, poured real money into it, genuinely improved the engineering, but never consistently made a dime on it. And when the 2008 financial crisis hit, Ford needed cash and sold Jaguar together with Land Rover to Tata Motors of India for a little over $2 billion. Everyone was skeptical. Tata was best known for building the cheapest car in the world. How could they possibly look after Jaguar? And for a long time, the answer was brilliantly. Under Tata, billions flowed into new models and factories. The F-Type sports car arrived in 2013 and got called the spiritual heir to the E-Type. The F-Pace SUV launched in 2016 and became the best-selling Jaguar almost overnight, and it sold strongly right here in America. By the end of the decade, Jaguar was moving over 180,000 cars a year worldwide. In 2018, it launched the I-Pace, a fully electric SUV that arrived before Tesla's Model Y, won World Car of the Year, and proved something important, that there was real demand for an electric Jaguar. American buyers actually wanted it. Whatever you want to call the Jaguar of 2019, it was not a company on its knees. It was selling real cars to real Americans, some of them genuinely great, and it had just shown it could build a serious EV. It had every ingredient it needed to go electric the smart way, which is what makes the next decision so hard to explain. Reimagine and the cliff. In 2021, Jaguar announced a plan called Reimagine, and on paper, going electric was the easy part. Everybody was going electric. The part that stunned the industry was everything else attached to it. Jaguar wasn't just switching to electric, it was discontinuing every single gas and diesel model it made. It was abandoning the market it competed in, the BMW and Mercedes space, and leaping up market to challenge Bentley and Porsche at more than double the price. Read that again, because the electric part is the least of it. Jaguar was changing its price, its customer, its competition, and its entire identity, all at once. The American professional who had bought Jaguars for years, the person who wanted something fast and beautiful they could actually afford, wasn't being brought along on this journey. They were being deliberately left behind, replaced. And then came the decision that turned a risky plan into the situation we're describing today. Jaguar stopped building everything before anything new was ready. They called it a fire break. Through 2024 and into 2025, the sedans ended, the sports car ended, the crossovers ended. And the last car of all was the F-Pace, the bestseller, the one car outselling everything else Jaguar made in America combined. The final Jaguar rolled off the line in December 2025, a black F-Pace built as a deliberate tribute to the last E-Type, which was also black. 90 years of building cars over, on purpose. Think about what that did to the dealers. Some American Jaguar dealers had carried the brand for decades. Some had just spent serious money renovating their showrooms, getting them ready for the electric relaunch they'd been promised was coming. And then there was nothing to put in them. No cars, no test drives, no delivery dates, just a picture of a pink concept car and a request for patience. Customers walked in, asked what was for sale, and got told nothing was. A lot of them walked right back out and bought a German car instead. And that is not a lost sale. That is a customer you never get back, because once someone spends $90,000 on a Mercedes, they are not trading it in 3 years later for a brand that ghosted them. And here's what makes it almost impossible to defend. Nobody else in the industry did it this way. Not one of Jaguar's rivals. BMW launched the i4 and the iX without ever taking the 3 Series off sale. Mercedes built its electric cars right alongside the gas ones. Audi rolled out a whole electric lineup while keeping the A4 and the Q5 sitting in showrooms. Every single one of them grew their electric sales while keeping their existing customers and their existing cars on the floor. They gave people a bridge. Jaguar gave them a cliff. It cleared out its showrooms and asked America to wait. What zero really means. So let's be precise about that headline, because the truth is actually more damning than the number. Did Jaguar technically register a literal 0 cars in America? Not to the last digit. There's still leftover inventory scattered across dealer lots, a final trickle of F-Paces and I-Paces being cleared out at enormous discounts, $5,000 to $10,000 off the SUVs, and with the electric ones, between dealer cash and federal tax credits, up to $25,000 or $30,000 off just to move them. But that's a fire sale of old stock, not a company selling cars. The real defensible truth is this. Jaguar is no longer actively selling a current model lineup in the United States. There is nothing new to order. The sedans are dead. Look at what happened to the XE, once an entry point into the brand. In its final year, it sold a grand total of 6 units, not 6,000. 6. Every model that carried the brand in America, the F-Pace, the E-Pace, the I-Pace, all discontinued. And this wasn't just an American story, it was global. Worldwide, Jaguar sold under 27,000 cars in its last full ICE year. At its peak in 2018, it sold over 180,000. That's a drop of around 85% in 7 years. In Europe, in a single month during the wind-down, Jaguar registered 49 cars across the entire continent, down more than 97% from the year before. So this collapse happened everywhere at once, but it lands hardest in America because the United States was Jaguar's single most important market, on track to generate roughly $1 billion in revenue. So when we say Jaguar sold 0 cars, what we really mean is this. A company that once sold Americans well over 17,000 cars in a single year, that made this country its biggest market, walked into 2026 with no current lineup, no new orders, and empty showrooms. For a mainstream luxury brand in its biggest market, that is as close to 0 as it gets. And I want to be fair here, because Jaguar has an answer to all of this, and you deserve to hear it. The company says this was the plan. You cannot sell cars you have deliberately stopped building. The collapse wasn't suffered, it was scheduled. And there's truth in that. The parent company, Jaguar Land Rover, is not broke, not even close. It made record profits recently, carried by Land Rover, which is selling extremely well. This is not a company that ran out of money. But planning a fall does not make the ground any softer when you land. And the people who drew up this plan have mostly not survived it. The ad agency was fired. The chief executive who oversaw Reimagine retired. and the chief creative officer, the man behind the rebrand, was dismissed with immediate effect, reportedly escorted out of the building exactly 1 year to the day after that pink concept car was revealed in Miami. On top of all of it, in late 2025, a massive cyber attack shut down the company's entire global network and froze what little production was left. When it rains on this company, it pours. The thing under your hood. Now, before we get to what your Jaguar is worth, there's something under the hood of a lot of them that you need to know about, especially if you own one of the F-Paces or E-Paces that sold so well here, because Jaguar has an engine problem hiding in plain sight, and a lot of owners have no idea. Starting in 2015, Jaguar Land Rover rolled out a family of engines called Ingenium and put them in almost everything. If you own a 4-cylinder diesel Jaguar or Land Rover from 2015 on, this is almost certainly what you've got. Now, this engine uses a timing chain instead of a belt, and a chain is supposed to be the good option, the one that lasts the life of the engine. In practice, on this particular engine, a lot of them haven't. The chains stretch. The plastic guides they ride against wear down and shed debris into the oil, and once the chain stretches far enough, the engine's timing slips out of position. Here's the one sign you need to know, because if you catch it, you have time. It's a metallic rattle when you start the engine cold. A few seconds, then it clears as oil pressure builds. It's worst on a cold, damp morning, the first start of the day. A lot of people hear it for months and assume it's just a diesel being a diesel. It is not. That is the chain slapping the guides, and it usually shows up somewhere between 60 and 80,000 miles. Two things make it worse, and both are common. Long gaps between oil changes and lots of short trips that never let the engine fully warm up. If you catch it at the rattle stage, it's an expensive repair, but the engine survives. If you ignore it, the chain eventually jumps or snaps, the pistons hit the valves, and at that point, you're not repairing anything, you're buying another engine. And here's the part that makes owners furious. The chain sits at the back of the engine, against the firewall, so to reach it, the transmission has to come out. That turns a routine job into a huge bill, which is exactly why so many of these get written off instead of fixed. So if you've got one, do this. Tomorrow morning, before you drive anywhere, start it cold with the radio off and just listen. If you hear that rattle clear after a few seconds, get it checked that week, not next month. And keep your oil changes short and use the exact right oil. On this engine, that's not the dealer upselling you. That's the difference between a car and a scrap heap. So beyond the engine, if you own a Jaguar in America, what does all this actually mean? Let's go through it. First, on value. This is not as bad as you might fear, and in one case, it's the opposite. The last F-Types, the final proper gas sports cars Jaguar will ever build, are already being treated as future collectibles. If you have a clean one, do not panic, sell it. The F-Pace, the E-Pace, the sedans, those are a different story. They're ordinary used luxury cars now, in a market where the badge doesn't carry what it used to, and they'll be priced that way. If you were planning to sell one, sooner beats later. Second, on parts and service. And here's the good news. You do not need to worry. Jaguar Land Rover is a large, profitable company. Land Rover is booming, and these cars share a huge amount of engineering with Land Rovers that are still very much on sale. Parts and specialists will be around for a very long time. The one thing to watch is the dealer network, which is shrinking, and shrinking fast, as dealers with nothing new to sell either drop the franchise or fold it into Land Rover. If your local Jaguar dealer closes, find a good independent specialist. Honestly, they'll often do the work better and cheaper anyway. Find one now, before you need one. Third, if you were thinking about buying, a used Jaguar right now is a lot of car for the money, precisely because the brand is in the state it's in. Those discounts on leftover inventory are real. Just check the service history, and on anything with that diesel engine, listen to it on a cold start before you sign anything. So tell me what you think in the comments. What did you own? An XF? An F-Type? An F-Pace? An old XJ? And do you believe there's any way back for Jaguar in America? Or is the leaping cat gone for good? Between all of us watching, this community has probably owned every Jaguar ever sold in this country. and your stories are a better record of what really happened than anything the company will ever put out. If you're new here, Motor Zen covers car culture from every corner of the world, the engineering, the history, and the business decisions that decide what actually ends up in your driveway. We don't pick sides between brands or countries. We just follow the story wherever it goes. Subscribe if that's your thing. New videos every other day, no filler. See you in the next one.